please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
On the show today, we drive the newly launched Volvo XC60 in India and also catch up with a former Formula One world champion to discuss his campaign against drinking and driving. We also check out the hottest motoring action from this week. Hi, welcome to Overdrive. You're watching the show with me, Sohini Dutt. Now, the Volvo 60 series of cars are spearing ahead into India. The first one to make it down to our shows is the XC60. Now, earlier this week, the car was launched in India and we got a chance to drive it. Take a look.
Volvo's 90 series of cars have given the brand a complete overhaul in the Indian market. With their remarkable design and new-age technologies, these cars have set the precedent for the other Volvo cars to follow. Well, that time is now, because the brand is now ready to focus on the 60 series of cars. The first of which is this, the Volvo XC60. It is a crossover that is much loved around the globe, and the new one seems like it will fit just fine into that lineage. It speaks the design language of its elders, and though I'm not a big fan of the same sausage different size philosophy, the elegance of Volvo's new design is something that I would openly welcome on various body styles. Like the 90 cluster of cars from Volvo, the XC62 is built on the scalable product architecture, a modular platform that allows Volvo's engineers and designers to customize the dimensions of the car to suit various body styles. The distance between the front axle and the dashboard remains unchanged on all SPA cars though, and that works in the XC60's favor by giving it proportions fit for a premium crossover. Compared to its highly successful predecessor, the XC60 is 44mm longer, 11mm wider and 14mm shorter, and the result is a crossover that looks very athletic in its stance. The XC60 does resemble the XC90 in many ways, but its smaller dimensions are evident even when it's standing solitary. If you can't judge it by its proportions though, one of the quickest ways of identifying the XC60 from the XC90 is the face, where the Thor's hammer daytime running lights poke their way out to reach the grille. The headlight assembly is studded with adaptive LED headlamps, and the rear is typical Volvo with the trademark design for its tail lights. The side profile looks quite interesting too, with the 19-inch wheels beefing up the stance. The steering and the vertical infotainment screen establish the XC90 resemblance yet again. It is a good thing, since the buyer gets Volvo's top drawer equipment and materials even in the car maker's medium-level car. I like the seamless panel of the grey-coloured open-pore wood that snakes through the length of the dashboard, and its natural texture feels nice to touch. You will also notice a flag of Sweden embossed in the chrome lining on the dash. Its coloured counterpart, as always, finds a spot on the side of the driver's seat. The perforated Napa leather upholstery on the seats looks best in tan, a shade that is getting increasingly popular with the customers, says Volvo. Trademark to new Volvo cars, the seats in the XC60 also have a slim profile and an orthopedic certified design. On the launch edition that you see here, these come spec'd with ventilation and massage functions for the front pair. The rear is quite roomy and the seats seem comfortable for long-distance journeys. Despite the narrow glasshouse, there is an airy feel to the cabin thanks to a panoramic roof. I've always said this, Volvos have some of the best standard fit audio units, and this one is no different. The 15-speaker Bars & Wilkins system, it's some of the best ones that you can listen to. And if you were to turn down the volume completely, this is still a very nice cabin to be in. The kind of noise insulation it has, it's just on par with any other premium car out there. The engine noises, the wind noises, road noises, everything has been nicely curbed, and this is coming from a diesel motor. So overall, it's a very silent place to be in and a nice cabin to be in. Our drive was largely limited to the smooth tarmac of Chennai's East Coast Road, and that is where the cabin felt even more silent. The engine refinement is hard to falter as well, and the XC60 in turn builds pace quite deceptively. It's not just the design that the XC60 shares with the XC90, it's also the lovely 2-litre diesel motor. Now the tune is very similar to what you have in the XC90. This puts out about 235 PS of power, about 480 Newton meters of torque. But compared to any of the other 90 series of cars that use this engine, the XC60 just makes this engine feel so much more enthusiastic, so much more fun to drive. As a package overall, I think this is the ideal Volvo where you can really enjoy that engine. In the other vehicles, it feels a little laid back in comparison, but here, it's a lot of fun. The eagerness of the engine is complemented by a fairly quick 8-speed transmission sourced from Aisin and a Haldex all-wheel drive system. We have sampled this equipment in the past, and it is no surprise that the XC60 is predominantly front-wheel driven and only summons the service of the rear wheels when it detects slip at the front. I'm pretty sure that for majority of our drive, our car stuck to the front-wheel drive configuration since the straight roads and the grippy tarmac was hardly any challenge for the front wheels. At launch, the XC60 will also ship with air suspension on all 4 corners, and that enables the car to alter damping and ride height if needed. Our test car let us choose between eco, comfort, off-road and dynamic modes to alter the nature of the suspension and the drivetrain. Surprisingly, the individual mode to set the suspension or drivetrain parameters separately wasn't available. That said, the presets work just fine. The XC60 is an easy driver when you want it to be and seems like it will deliver equally well when given the beans. If the list of safety features isn't the juiciest part of the brochure, this car wouldn't qualify as a Volvo. Appreciably, the car maker hasn't shied away from bringing in some of its best safety tech to the India-spec Volvo XC60 either. For a mid-level offering, the list is commendable, and the most notable features and assistance systems are front, side and curtain airbags, collision mitigation support at the front and the rear, emergency steering assist, lane keeping assist and emergency braking assist. The City Safety Package, which uses most of these systems in its operation, had debuted in India on the previous generation XC60. The new one takes it further by being active at city as well as highway speeds, making it a safer package overall. The Volvo XC60 has always been one of the best buys from Sweden, and this one just makes the deal sweeter. It is still as sensible as you would expect a Volvo to be, but it's got that little bit more enthusiasm, a little bit more youthfulness, and that should give it a wider appeal this time around.
On the sidelines of this drive, Rohit caught up with Volvo India's MD, Mr. Charles Trump, who did mention that the outgoing model of the XC60 contributed to over 30% of the local sales, but they do hope that this new model will build on that successful run. On that note, it's time for us to take our first break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we will answer your queries on Auto Selector, and there's a lot more. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive and you've joined us on our Auto Selector segment here on the show where our Overdrive editor Shumi will answer all of your queries. Hi Shumi, our first question this week comes in from Abhishek Mukherjee. He writes in saying that he's been riding for many years now and wants to buy a touring motorcycle. He wants it to be around 2 lakh rupees and performance and ride stability are his priorities. His shortlist includes the Mahindra Mojo, the KTM Duke 200, the Bajaj Dominar 400 and the Yamaha FZ25. Which motorcycle out of these 4 do you think would suit him best?
Oh, that is such a juicy segment to buy a motorcycle in because there are so many good ones in there. So if I were to start from the top, you've said Mojo, I would say hold off on the Mojo. Let the ABS version come. I think that would be the motorcycle to buy. So I would not touch the Mojo yet. KTM Duke 250 should be a good tourer. Your other options were the Yamaha FZ25, also a good option. What I would steer you towards though is if you can get an ABS equipped motorcycle because you're going to be out on the highway, in which case I think the 2 bikes that come to my mind is the new Apache RR310 that has just come out. It's got ABS as standard, 2.05 lakh rupees, so should fit within your budget. If you can extend your budget a little bit, the new KTM Duke 390 is actually a very, very nice tourer. It's got a bigger fuel tank capacity, it's a more comfortable motorcycle and it's a more spacious motorcycle than before. And I think in EMIs, the difference in price from the motorcycles you're mentioning to that is not a whole lot. So just on the basis of the fact that there's more safety equipment on the Apache and the KTM Duke 390, I would suggest those are the motorcycles you should be considering, not not the ones on your list.
Shumi, our next question this week comes in from Ashutosh Sahni. He writes in saying that he's been driving a BMW 3 Series F30 for almost 5 years now and also has a Skoda Yeti, but wishes to buy the new 530 M Sport. But is it a wise decision to make since his current 3 Series has only done 32,000 kilometers? Or should he replace it with the Skoda Yeti, which has covered 77,000 kilometers with a performance SUV like the BMW X5? Besides, there isn't a 530D for a test drive. Also, is there any chance that India would see a 540i or the X5M petrol performance variant anytime soon?
Ashutosh, lots of nice cars in your question, so good question. What I would start with is that the 540i and the X5M not likely to come to India anytime soon. The manufacturer's perspective on petrols is changing. All the German luxury manufacturers are talking about bringing more of these cars in, but I'm not sure that this will happen at a time scale that you're buying the car on. Between your other two options, I would say keep your BMW sedan and change your Yeti because it's the older car and you're going to go from the old school crossover style SUV to a full-on luxury SUV. I think that's a more substantial change, that's a more substantial improvement to your garage abilities, as it were. So I would say pick the X5 off the Yeti. Don't worry about your 3 Series BMW just now.
Just like the others, if you have any more queries, you can send them to us on helpdesk@overdrive.co.in. That is our email address. You can also Facebook or tweet us your queries and we will get Shumi to answer them for you on the show. Right now though, it's time for us to turn our attention to see what all has been making it on the headlines. Early on this week, McLaren took the wraps off the McLaren P15 hypercar, which is named McLaren Senna after the legendary Brazilian Formula 1 world champion. This hypercar comes powered by a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 mated to a 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox and costs a whopping $1 million, which translates to 6.45 crore Indian rupees.
Ferrari, a brand that evokes emotions and feelings. Now, for years they have stated to the connoisseurs of design and performance, the Ferrari has come a long way since it first rolled out its car from the Maranello plant. Now, if you see behind me is that timeline, but the main car that you should see is this, the Ferrari 125S. Now, this very car came with a 1.5-litre V12 motor. As we move ahead across the timeline, you see a lot of Ferrari cars that made into production, that were made especially for the racetrack and that donned the ultimate performance that you have ever seen.
No, we're very happy to be in India. We are proud of having two strong partners in India. We opened the import dealers in Delhi and in Mumbai just over 3 years ago. And in this period of time, we have already, I think, brought in a lot of knowledge about Ferrari, a lot of quality, a lot of customer delight. I think what we should now do from this point onwards is to increase the touch points of the future Ferrari clients with our cars. That means we should bring more cars into the country. It's very important for Ferrari always to focus on the car as the center of every activity. Therefore, we love driving the cars in a group of like-minded people. We are providing many platforms like this all over the world. I think we should also increase the possibilities for the Indian prospects and customers to have more possibilities to drive, to have more fun with the brand. I think that's very important, especially in a young market where we still have to build up a lot of structure.
Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I got to know that a former Formula 1 world champion, Mika Hakkinen, was coming down to India along with Johnny Walker to promote the Don't Drink and Drive campaign. So I decided to catch up with him to understand a little more about that particular campaign and also find out what he thinks of the current crop of Formula 1 race drivers as well as the forthcoming sea of change in the sport. Take a look. He's known as the Flying Finn in F1 circles. Michael Schumacher went on record saying Mika Hakkinen was his best opponent ever. He's won 2 back-to-back World Championship titles for McLaren Mercedes, and for the past 10 years, his long-standing association with Johnny Walker as the global responsible drinking ambassador has won him astounding support across the globe. I've got to say this has got to be my lucky day because I'm not only getting to interview one of my childhood heroes, but I'm also getting to interview a double Formula One world champion. Mika Hakkinen, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So I understand that you're here to talk about the Drink Responsibly campaign. On a weekly basis, I tell my audiences to drive responsibly. I see how these two are connected. Can you tell us more?
It has been a great journey together with Johnny Walker. And the message is never drink and drive. I've been racing such a many years in such a challenging situations. That way you have to stay in control. When you stay in control, you make success. So if you drink and drive, you're not in control and you make mistakes. And also Join the Pact has been a great campaign. So we're asking people to give it their autograph, their signature. That way they never drink and drive. We have collected now just less than 5 million signatures. Our intention here in India to collect 2 million.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be very busy.
Now, I have to ask you about a lot of buzz is being created regarding the 2020 regulations, the engine regulations, and I see that a lot of the big teams are very unhappy about the new regulations. What can you tell us about that?
It's always a challenge to please everybody. So far, the teams, in Formula One teams, they are really been spending a lot of time, a lot of effort from the different engineers, designers, and of course a lot of money, this development work, what they've been using so far. If suddenly comes to different regulations, that means the people have to again spend a lot of money and a lot of development work to found the good people, to found the maximum, to make the engines to perform. So there is always happy and unhappy people when they're becoming a new regulations.
But where do you stand?
I can see that you are really generating new possibilities, new chances. The teams who has not been able to win, engine manufacturers who has not been able to be successful. I think this is a door for the new chances.
All right. And also about the new changes that we're going to see. Next year, you're going to see the halo fitment being added. What do you think of that?
I am not so excited about it. But I'm sure if FIA, if they decide to introduce something like this, they will do everything. They will test everything. That way it will be safe. And it would bring more safety to Formula One. Only thing, this can sound a bit crazy, but only thing I'm wondering that if the Formula One car in an accident goes upside down, then you have a system like a halo with doesn't necessarily
stuff to get out.
You cannot get out.
Yeah.
So there is that kind of things which are always challenging. But like I said, FIA doing maximum to find the best possible solutions.
So the last time you were with us, you told us that the driver is the heart of the car, and if you have a good driver, you have a winning team. Now, if that is true still, we have so many good and talented racing drivers on the grid today. We have, if I may call him Mad Max, we have Daniel Ricciardo, we have Esteban Ocon, and we, Valtteri Bottas, and we have even Sebastian Vettel still. Who has impressed you the most?
There is certainly great talent drivers out there. Lewis Hamilton, what he has done this year, done a great job.
Yeah.
He's been consistent most of the time, more consistent than others. And he's been able to do a great job. Max Verstappen has done an incredible job. Difficult to say actually. It's difficult to say who would be the number one there.
Where do you see Formula E in the realm of motorsport today? Because we see manufacturers see it as a test bed for developing future electric powertrains.
I think Formula E is a fantastic racing category, and I'm very confident that over the next 3-4 years we will see some incredible changes there, simply because of development. I think the fans, what they want to see really fast car
and the sound.
And the sound,
which is missing in Formula E though.
Yeah, exactly. So soon as they develop the batteries in a level that way they can go full power for 2-3 hours, then I would say, wow, I think that could be a mega achievement.
Right.
But the sound.
The sound, very important.
Yeah, I think it needs a bit the sound, yeah.
I can't let you go without asking you a couple of quick questions. I don't want you to think too much. I just want you to answer whatever comes to your mind.
Oh my God.
At the start. So you cannot think at all.
I think I'm ready, yeah.
All right, so who was your best teammate in Formula 1? You're thinking.
Jody Herbert.
Who is the quicker Finn, Valtteri Bottas or Kimi Räikkönen?
Valtteri Bottas.
Who is your current favorite F1 driver?
Oh, I have to answer quickly. Oh my God, I don't have the time. I don't know actually, I don't know.
Okay, Michael Schumacher or Ayrton Senna, who was the better champion?
This is a tricky question. Oh my, you put me in a difficult position. Equal, they're equal.
All right, McLaren, Mercedes or McLaren, Honda?
McLaren, Mercedes.
All right, and who do you think will be the next world champion between Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas?
I say Valtteri Bottas.
Thank you so much, Mika. This is
They're so tricky,
great
those.
talking to you.
Nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Well, that was definitely one of my biggest fangirl moments, and we are allowed to be starstruck once in a while, aren't we? Time then for us to wrap up this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook as well as Twitter, and you can follow our latest videos on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye, and do remember to drive safe.